Hi, this is Andri Bester, and you're joining me on This Is What We Were Told. On this channel, I'm talking about issues of faith that seriously challenged my belief in the integrity of the Bible. In 2020, I published a book on my spiritual journey called This Is What We Were Told. My book is aimed at challenging people to look beyond the limitations of religious belief and to take in the bigger picture of the wonder of life. On this channel, I want to give viewers a taste of the topics I cover in my book. On this channel and through my book, I aim to awaken people to the wonders of life playing out right around them, just beyond the boundaries of faith. So please join me, and hopefully you find something worth your while here. In a previous episode, I spoke about the merits of religious thinking, that all the various religions of the world were discrediting one another as false, and that there was no objective way to determine what the truth really was. Today I want to continue exploring this avenue a bit more, just to add some further perspective as to why I regard religious thinking with suspicion. Let's do another common sense thinking exercise and try to understand why it is that people believe at all. I think there is a very plausible explanation for this. We live in an era where we are very fortunate to have cutting-edge science and technology to make our lives easier, safer, more manageable, and more predictable. We have highly advanced medical procedures and treatments to fight off disease, to mend our bodies, and to prolong our lives. We have a detailed understanding of the world in which we live, from the limitless expanse of space to the invisible world of the building blocks of atoms. We have a detailed understanding of the laws of nature, and we have learned to proactively harness them to advance humanity as a species. To a large degree, our lives and existence have become predictable and plannable. But this has not always been the case. There was a period in the existence of humankind where humans did not have the benefit of scientific understanding, where they relied on the most basic of intuitions to try and make sense of their lives and their realities. It is undoubtedly hard for us to imagine ourselves in such an environment, but I think it is critically important for us to try and do so, because in doing so, we can perhaps learn something about where belief was born. Just imagine yourself part of a small group of primitive hunter-gatherers roaming the plains of some unknown wilderness. You have no idea where you came from or why you are here. You have no scientific knowledge. Everything you know, you have learned from your group or by trial and error. From day to day, you live off whatever it is that you are able to pick, dig out, or kill. You have no certainty where your next meal is going to come from. You have no home or personal belongings. To protect you against extreme cold or searing heat, you wear the skins of animals that you've killed. You only carry with you tools for hunting, digging, and cutting. You only know the 10 or 20 other people in your group, and together you share whatever resources the group happens upon. Life is extremely unpredictable. Danger lurks around every corner. Not a moment goes by without you scanning your environment for threats. Not only are there predators constantly prowling around, but also other groups of humans who want to rob you of your food or territory. And then you also have to contend with the unpredictability and fearsomeness of unseen agents. I mean, predators and bandits are physical beings. You can see them, you know what harm they can do, and you know what to do to ward them off. But what about all the other things happening around you? You have a daily companion in the sky that is very bright and lights your way and makes you feel warm and safe. You think this companion is your friend, but where does it go to at the end of the day? Who takes it away? What are these fearsome events when dark clouds capture your companion in the sky? When blinding light flashes down on earth and the air shakes with deafening explosions? What is happening when water falls down from the sky? Why is it that the ground beneath your feet sometimes trembles and shakes and makes big rocks break loose from the mountains? Why is it that the earth sometimes spews out rivers of flames? You often have a companion in the sky at night, but something eats it so that it becomes smaller and smaller, but then it starts growing again. Who does that? And why? Why is it that your nightly companion occasionally is covered in blood? How is it that you sometimes see a light fixed in the night sky with a long tail? And so we can add to these questions. Of course, I'm speculating now, but you can bet your bottom dollar somewhere, sometime, way back in prehistory, somebody asked these questions with fear in their heart. Humans need predictability in their lives. They need stability. They need control over their circumstances because all of this brings more certainty and security into our lives. So, what does a primitive human being do when inexplicable events like these show up unannounced and claim lives? I think it is part of human nature to want to ascribe some form of agency to everything happening around us. We want to identify patterns. We want to know who or what causes what result. In that way, we can use the knowledge we have attained to better prepare ourselves to deal with similar eventualities in future and survive them. So, when a primitive human being witnesses a thunderstorm, an earthquake, a volcanic eruption, or a lunar eclipse, what does he do? He tries to assign agency to that event. He tries to determine who is doing this. He tries to determine causality in order to learn what the pattern of events was that led to the particular outcome. In the case of a natural disaster, this becomes very complicated because the agent that is causing this is an unseen agent. Even more disturbing, a primitive human being knows that events of this nature falls beyond the capability of ordinary human beings. No human can make water fall from the sky or make the ground to shake. The only conclusion a primitive human being can arrive at, in the absence of scientific understanding, is that these events are somehow caused by one or more super beings. These beings have powers beyond any human, which makes them fearsome. Furthermore, They are not seen, so they must live in a place that humans cannot see and where humans cannot go. This means they must have the power to travel from where they live to bring disaster to the earth. And if it is so that the earth and humankind are at the whim of these super beings, we had best conduct ourselves in a way that does not give offense to them. In fact, we should conduct ourselves in a way that appeases them. In modern day times, this kind of reasoning might sound infantile, but in the absence of a better understanding, how else could primitive human beings make sense of their own reality? They could only draw conclusions based on the patterns they observed around them. And however erroneous or ridiculous those conclusions might have been, that is all they had. And this is how it happened that the sun became a sun god, how lightning and thunder were ascribed to some god hammering away on his celestial anvil, how lunar and solar eclipses became messengers of doom, and how spring equinoxes became the preferred time to bring offerings to the gods of agriculture, so that they can bless the crops and the breeding of their cattle herds. And bear this in mind, humans have been around for hundreds of thousands of years before science brought us out of darkness into a new realm of understanding. There has been plenty of time for humans to come up with the most elaborate explanations imaginable for all kinds of natural disasters. From meteors, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and storms, to droughts and epidemics. There has been a lot of time on hand for humans to think on these elaborate explanations and to come up with recipes or rituals on how to keep the gods appeased and how to ensure that your life on earth and your life in the hereafter is peaceful and secure. Embedding a belief within a group or culture seems to me to be equally self-explanatory. In my next talk, I'll be elaborating a bit more on how religion and faith can become embedded. But let me just conclude here with this. Humans are, in a manner of speaking, hardwired to see patterns everywhere and to assume that agents cause events. Added to that, once we think that we have identified a certain pattern or the cause of a certain event, it becomes difficult to be convinced otherwise, because we tend to be biased towards our own beliefs and conclusions. Our ability to write and read has certainly added to the process of embedding belief. Going through this common sense exercise just made me more acutely aware of the fragility of religious belief. People think their religious convictions are strong and real and justified. But the reality is that religions come and go. I mean, who still believes the sun is a god? Who still believes lightning and thunder are the evidence of a god working with a hammer? Who still prays to Zeus or Poseidon to bless a particular endeavor? Nobody. But those were powerful beliefs in their time. Those gods are gone, and since then, a lot of other gods have come and gone. Undoubtedly, science has played a major part in enlightening us regarding the world in which we live. It helped us realize that our previous conclusions regarding patterns we thought we observed were actually mistaken, and that there were much simpler and logical explanations for those events. Belief developed because we incorrectly assigned agency to some or other deity based on what we thought was a pattern. Knowledge and understanding subsequently taught us that our earlier conclusions were wrong. Today, we still have gods, beliefs, and rituals. But how much of that will eventually remain as we gain deeper and deeper insight into the wonder of life? We often hear talk about the so-called God of the gaps. This term simply refers to the human tendency to ascribe supernatural agency to those things that we still do not understand. First, we thought that God placed us in the center of the universe and that everything revolved around us. Later on, we discovered that we actually lived in a heliocentric system where we revolved around the sun. We thought that God singled out our little planetary neighborhood, the solar system, as our special environment, and that the rest of the blips in the night sky were just stars. Then we discovered that our little neighborhood was actually seated within a massive ocean of stars, the Milky Way galaxy. And we weren't even at the center of it. We were way out in a lonely, barren spot of the Milky Way galaxy, far, far away from the center. But more than that, we discovered that the Milky Way galaxy was just one of billions of other oceans of stars, other galaxies. We thought that God fixed everything in the universe in a permanent position. Then we discovered that galaxies are actually receding from one another, faster and faster, and that new stars and planets still are born while others die or get wiped out. We have found thousands of planets similar to our own planetary worlds, but way beyond our own little neighborhood. We know they're there, but currently we do not have the technology to even dream of reaching them. Suddenly, our little neighborhood was no longer the only planetary neighborhood in the universe. We're not that special after all. We thought the splendor of the night sky was simply proclaiming the majesty of God. Then we discovered that the beauty of the heavenly bodies was actually attesting to the brutality of natural forces more devastating than we can imagine. We thought God made all the natural chemical elements around us unique from one another. Then we discovered that all the natural chemical elements actually contained exactly the same building blocks, just with different quantities of electrons. We discovered that all the natural chemical elements were the products of nuclear fusion in stars. Everything we see around us, even ourselves, are in some way or another the products of stars. We thought that the development of new life was a divine mystery. And then we discovered that the whole process is run by a deceptively simple set of proteins called DNA. And all through this process of discovery, the need to explain the unexplainable by attributing it to the mysterious hand of God has been diminishing. We no longer need to explain things as a mysterious work of God because we have worked out and understand the natural forces at play. And this trend will continue. What we currently do not understand, and what some people currently attribute to the mysterious hand of God, is going to be unraveled sooner or later. And then we are going to be able to say, this is how it works, and this is how we are going to harness it. Thus, the gaps in our understanding, where God is currently the easy explanation, are shrinking. My sense is that as our understanding is increasing, there is less and less reason to ascribe certain events to the working of a higher hand. Join me for my next talk, where I will be looking into how belief became embedded in society and why people are convinced that their religion and faith are unshakable and justified. This is Andri Bester for This Is What We Were Told. If you're interested in a copy of my book, mail me at the address on the screen and I'll be in touch. Have a lovely day.